Because the value of those assets are high, the level of security they've also put in place to protect them are also what high. Imagine if there is no understanding of the security solutions. They're going to keep wasting money on lots of things, thinking they are securing the system or they are investing in cybersecurity, when in fact, when they are only duplicating the same thing, there's no point repeating what has been done. It's a waste of time, waste of resources. Work factor is the amount of time and effort it takes to break into a system. The higher the work factor, the more discouraged the attackers or perpetrators will be, the more frustrated they're going to be. Yeah, so because you cannot totally secure a system, what you want to aim for is an organization that's got expensive assets should also have the budget to secure those expensive assets. You cannot buy a Lamborghini and then you try to lock in a garage, but then the garage is protected with a £10 lock. I don't know if you've heard of the story of the rich man who had a car and he was going to travel and he needed a secure place to park his car for a week. So he went to the bank. He went to collect a loan and he was like, I'm going to use my car as collateral. Hold my car while I collect the money from you. And then when I pay back the money, you give me back my car. So I think he collected around $10,000 and he left a very expensive, super fast car that worth around 250 grand or 300 grand. So you're borrowing 10 grand, but then you're using your car of 300 grand as collateral. And he traveled and returned in a week, paid them back the money, collected his car. And before they gave him his car, the guy at the bank asked, why did you collect a loan from us when you clearly didn't need this? And he was like, where else would I get parking for free? Because all he paid would be the interest for the few days on top of the money he borrowed, depending on the interest rate. So where else would he get cheap parking to protect his car, his assets? So that's a smart person because he knows the bank would do anything to protect that car. The same way banks have vault to keep treasure and valuable. Because the value of those assets, the value of those things are high, the level of security they've also put in place to protect them are also what? High. If the value of what you're protecting is really high and you can afford those assets, then you should also be able to make a very reasonable allocation for the security, whether cyber or physical, of those assets. It's important. Yeah, you cannot have high value assets and you're protecting it with the same padlock that you would use to protect broomsticks from children, right? It makes no sense. Do you get it? So think of it this way. We've got this room. We've got the light, we've got the computer, we've got your Alienware, your HP, your Mac, right? We've got all these gadgets here. They are expensive from your perspective, correct? Would you go out and leave your door open knowing you've got all these things here? No, you wouldn't. But at the same time, would you then go and hire a security guard to stand at your door to protect these things? You wouldn't, because even though they are valuable and you've got security in place, which is the locked door, it's secure enough. So that's commensurate with the value of what you're protecting. Yeah. It's proportional in a way to the value of what you're protecting. But the moment you go too much and you're like, I've got valuables here, my door is secure, but I think I want to hire an extra security guard to protect my assets. Now, the amount you're spending to protect the assets is way more than the value of the assets you're protecting. That's not wise. So you can't be spending more to protect an asset that worth less. Yeah? Cool. My mentor and I were talking about cybersecurity one day. He's way more experienced, than I have. He's been in cybersecurity for 10 years before I got into the field. So we were talking one day and he was telling me about the way he's able to communicate clearly between technical guys and the executive stakeholders, and also how he is able to let them know, like let the technical guys know what needs urgent attention and what doesn't need urgent attention. Also, how from the report and his understanding of what the report says, he can clearly balance the business needs with the security and technical needs, right? So if they've got resources for implementing certain things in cybersecurity or the security solutions, go for the most important ones, because from what I am seeing, yes, the scanner says this vulnerability exists, but this other control that we've got in place already counters that vulnerability, meaning this other layer of security we have in place makes this vulnerability invalid. Therefore, there is no need to add this to what you need to patch, because we've already got a compensating control, or we've got another control to secure that. So then it can prioritize and put resources into other things that really matter. But imagine if there is no understanding of what really matters, or of what's crucial to the business, or of the security solutions. They're going to keep wasting money on lots of things, thinking they are securing the system or they are investing in cybersecurity, when in fact, when they are only duplicating the same thing, there's no point repeating what has been done. It's a waste of time, waste of resources, waste of energy, waste of personnel, waste of money, and several other resources that are wasted. Yeah. So if there is already a security control that counters a vulnerability that you suspect, or that you suspected before, there is no point trying to create another one, unless, of course, the benefit of adjusting or implementing it is more than the cost. But if the cost of implementing the extra security is more than the benefit, just forget it. That's the point of risk assessment, and that's why CBA is part of the risk assessment, cost benefit analysis. Yeah, so that's the first one. The first one is, how would you verify if the vulnerabilities really exist? Because many times automated vulnerability scanners are good, but many times they can give you false positives, telling you this is penetrable or this vulnerability exists. But then this is where penetration testing comes in. You get an actual penetration tester to come on board, verify the vulnerabilities that are found. Are they really penetrable? And you remember the example I gave you a while back, a few sessions ago, where I said this is a transparent window. We've got a transparent window over here, correct? Yes. Now, if I look from the other building across the road, I'm gonna say transparent glass. Now, if the light is on and I can see inside, I can be like, oh, I can see the people inside, which means it's going to be easy for me to come inside. But then that's just vulnerability assessment, because yes, there's a potential entry point for me, which is this glass window or this glass door. But then a penetration tester would actually take a stone and try to stone the person they are seeing inside and see, go, can I hit the person's head? And they realize, oh, okay, I threw the stone, but the stone stopped at the door. So even though it's glass, I can see it's a strong tempered glass that would not allow easy penetration. And another penetration tester that is really wicked and really likes to give his clients, the best service ever, can be like, I'm gonna get a ladder and then climb up the ladder and try to brute force the door open. And then they go try to like push the door, right? And they realize it's not opening. And they're like, oh, okay, it only looks delicate or looks like a vulnerability. Yes, it is a potential entry point. It's an attack surface, but it's not an easy attack surface. It's not as easy as it looks. It's not as weak as it looks. It's not a weakness as it seems. Yeah. So that's where penetration testing comes in. So then, if I just stop at vulnerability assessment and say, wow, that's another vulnerability, what am I going to do? I'm going to try to get an iron door or a burglary, add it on top of it. I'm spending money, I'm spending resources, time, energy. But the penetration testing attempt let me realize that there's no need to spend that extra amount of money, because it looks like it's an entry point, but it is a secure entry point. And only authorized or legitimate users would be allowed in or out. That's where the penetration testing part comes in. So it verifies what the vulnerabilities really are. And penetration testing sometimes also benefit from experience, right? What do I mean by it also benefits from experience? Even though the vulnerability scan may not report certain vulnerabilities, or the automated scanning tools may not report certain vulnerabilities, based on certain behavior from your own scan, or your own activities, or based on what you know about the infrastructure, you can suspect that this system is likely to be susceptible to this. So then you go straight to attempting the penetration. So you've gone past the vulnerability assessment, but you've gone straight to attempting that particular attack. And then you can see that, wow, even though the automated scanner did not report this, my manual test has allowed me realize that it is possible to break into this entry point. Yeah. So vulnerability assessment is good, vulnerability scanning is good, but the penetration test is like the guy that seals whatever the report says. It confirms or disproves what the vulnerability assessment says. Yeah. Work factor is the amount of time and effort it takes to break into a system, especially a cryptographic system. The higher the work factor, the more discouraged the attackers or perpetrators will be, the more frustrated they're going to be. Yeah. So because you cannot totally secure a system, what you want to aim for is make the work factor as high as possible in such a way that they give up by themselves. So the work factor needs to be high. So that's the amount of time or effort it takes to break into a system, usually a cryptographic system. Yeah, like crack a password. And that's why they're going to tell you use a complex password or long password, mix it with characters, numbers, special characters, because then all you're doing by doing that is you're increasing the work factor, you're increasing the complexity. So apart from increasing the compute time it's going to take to crack it, you're also increasing how difficult it's going to be to get a combination, because the number of possibilities have increased.